Imposter syndrome is part of you. It's something that is telling you, hey, you don't know everything. I actually always thank my imposter syndrome. Thank you for reminding me. Maybe I've been going, a little bit, big-headed. Maybe it's because now I know a lot of things, yeah, but you don't know everything. And it reminds me that keeps me humble, it brings me, but it's how you deal with imposter syndrome. For me, this is the key. The key is not saying, oh, I have imposter syndrome and I have to do something to get rid of it. No, it's going to be, first, let's be honest, it's always going to be that.
Carmen, I am so excited that you're here. I'm always excited when people are here, but Carmen, like we go back a little bit as well, which is really fun because I feel like I know you, and also there's been a gap where I haven't spent time with you, and you probably had loads of different experiences and different times and learned lots of new things. I wanted to start and just go back a little bit because I was having a look at your LinkedIn, and I didn't know, but you actually started at Yahoo, which I find very interesting because that's sort of like a little bit where some of the internet started in some form of the internet. It kind of began a little bit there, and I was just curious, like, what was Yahoo like? It was a long time ago, but
it's a long time ago. That was my opportunity to get into the industry, to be honest, in our sector, because I was looking for a job. I was not really sure what I was going to end up doing. I'm a computer scientist, so I actually was looking for things that I could do as a computer scientist, but I had my master's in interaction design. And they got me in because of the computer science, actually, more than for my interaction design background. But quite quickly, when in my first interview, they realized I had that skill set. And then they switched and they offered me, it was an internship. They were saying, oh, we could twist it for you into, you will be doing more of, it was not called UX back then. So information architecture and, a bit of research and so on. And yeah, that was, to be honest, it was quite sure. The team was quite really good, and it felt pretty much what a digital team, what we call a product team today.
yeah, because this is 2006, so we're going back quite a bit, like product teams and things like that. Like I don't remember, it wasn't the language back then, was it? It was like it was sort of e-commerce teams and things like that. And so where was that? Was that in central London? I guess was it?
Yeah, it was. It was in central London in Sheffield. I don't know if they're still there, but Sheffield Avenue, like central. It was quite exciting for me. My first actual, first job on what I did study. Met lots of really nice people, really good contacts. But also, start establishing, I think your first experiences establish your mindset of how you should be working. So if I remember, we were not sitting with the developers, but we were quite close to the developers. And because they knew I had a computer science background, they will invite me to their meetings, It was quite exciting for me. So yeah, and it was actually the head of engineering who directed me to, I didn't even know what I needed to look for. And he said, you are really good, you need to look for information architecture. That's what you look for. He was the one, I didn't even know what I had to look for. So, he said, you are really good at this. You should be looking for this, And they wanted me to stay, but I experienced early in my career the effects of redundancy. My team was made redundant. So it was really sad because, they really wanted me to stay. But then, the redundancy happened and then they couldn't keep me. But,
wasn't that interesting though? That there's a couple of lots of interesting things in that, but there's something that I can resonate with in my experience as well. Is like when someone sort of spots something in you, or sort of gives you a nudge, and well, why didn't you try this? That was really similar in my experience as well. Actually, I was a web designer at Eurostar, pretty much at the same time. Actually, it was about 2005, 2006. I had a manager, and I was just like a web designer, and he said, why don't you look at information architecture, and I said, yeah, I can do that. And I remember going back to my desk and Googling, like, what is information architecture, and then it was like, oh, right, okay, so it's kind of like web design, but you have to worry about the colors and you have to worry about the style, and you think more about the flow and the structure and how things are, the hierarchy. And that for me, I don't know about you, but I felt a lot more comfortable in that place. Actually, it felt a lot less subjective, and it felt more about like reasoning and rational and things like that, things that I could see and measure, as opposed to like shiny buttons and colors and fonts. I preferred to be in. I found early that space worked better for me. But I wonder how that was for you when you started information architecture. Was that something that clicked for you, do you think?
Well, the thing is, my start was straight into that. I actually found a few months
Of
later,
course, yeah.
I found a role at USwitch, the comparison side, as an information architect, which in no time, it was in the moment where UX design was starting to emerge. And in no time, they basically changed our title to UX designer. So yeah, I became a UX designer quite randomly, as an information architect and then UX designer. But for me, has always been, I'm not a visual designer. I have never done visual design. So I never had that skill set. I come from I'm a computer scientist who went to Stockholm to KTH, one really good university in Sweden. It's the equivalent of Imperial College here. And I did a course for technical people. Actually, we were engineers and computer scientists on interaction design. But interaction design, not what is today, we didn't have a name for design thinking, basically. And that's what I was
Yeah.
learning in my master's. They were teaching us, basically they were following this school. And I learned design thinking without knowing it didn't have that name yet.
No, no, yeah, I don't remember even hearing design thinking, and I was woefully ignorant in my career. I was not as well read as you were, but I don't remember hearing it until sort of 2016 kind of time. Like I don't remember, like in John Lewis, I don't remember anybody using those words. Like well, you probably did, but I never heard it sort of as a thing. I feel like I was late to the party. It had been around IDEO and all that, but just when it came to kind of like big enterprises and like I don't remember them talking about that. Like it was agile was the thing, but they didn't use the word design thinking. That from my memory, I don't know if you remember it differently.
Well, you were doing design thinking. It's just that it didn't have the name.
We didn't call it that, yeah.
I think I don't remember exactly when IDEO coined this. It was IDEO basically. What they did is
Yeah,
the two founders of IDEO, I think one of them still teaches at Stanford, yeah. So yes, basically package the thing that they do in this school as
yeah,
and it is like an agency thing, yeah. They had to give it a name, a process. The process exists, but they just branded it and they call it design thinking. I don't remember exactly when they started doing it. Obviously, when we were starting our careers, no one was talking about this. We were practicing it without the name.
mm,
I
mm,
learned
mm.
that, when I look at what we were doing in my master's, it is exactly the same thing. And they were telling us, I mean, imagine a room of engineers, computer scientists and engineers telling us that we have to go out and observe people and do ethnography. And we were looking at each other, why? Why do we need to go out and look at
Yeah,
people? We
yeah.
can't design. We were like, I remember we had to design this new system, a digital system for the tunnelbana in Stockholm, where people could buy, like here, we had it for a long time, but actually in Stockholm, you need to go to a shop to buy your physical ticket.
Yeah.
So at least in 2005 when I was there. So they were saying, oh, you need to turn this into a digital system. And we were like, okay, why do we need to go out and observe people? That was in between us. And they were like, well, they knew really well who we were. That we were coming from these degrees where it's more technical. You think about in really logical, terms how you're gonna design the system, and you don't have that consideration of understanding the human side of it.
Mm.
So for me, it was an eye opener because I was like them. To be fair, we were like, "This is crazy. We need to go out," and it was an eye opener because then I started going out and I understood. For instance, one of the observations, one of my tunnelbana stations was outside in Sweden in the winter where it snows. If we haven't been there and observed people, how, they move around, and in that station, you couldn't really have, we were already talking, a touch screen system. That wouldn't work in that station.
Right. Well, because it's so cold.
Because apart from, I think Swedish people probably can remove their gloves and,
Yeah.
touch, but is snowing. So how you're gonna deal with the snow falling down in the touch screen, and so is the weather, is the conditions. But then
Yeah.
there were many other observations we went through. Actually, I started being a researcher. I got really excited, and I was like, oh, we need to go to different types of tunnelbana stations. We can go to big stations and medium stations and smaller stations. And my team were like, oh gosh, you go.
You've always had a passion for that, and like I'm thinking like what you were doing was like that, that phrase like get out the building, like that's exactly what you're embodying. Like you the I think you're probably like UX's most passionate person. Like the enthusiasm you have to kind of learn something and connect to users' experience and stuff like that. Like I don't think I've seen it anywhere else actually. And something that I will always remember about you when we work together is that you have like a real deep curiosity to learn. You're always reading books. You're always like looking at podcasts, and I'm really curious. Like, there's someone who is much well read than me in UX. Like, what role does learning about theory and different ideas and concepts, like, are you able to transfer that into a practical level in your jobs? Like, because sometimes I can see people understand theory but they don't know how to apply it. And is that something that have you kind of mastered or worked with that? Like, how do you work with that, like taking the theory and making it practical?
I think this is, at least for me, and I cannot talk for all people who do any engineering or, computer science lies a little bit more on that engineering type of degrees. And, I'm really good at getting principles, and I connect with what I've been taught, and what I resonate, I take into my way of thinking, my mindset. It builds mindset. So when I did computer science and I studied previously, I always connected with science. I think it's a way of thinking. It's like you need to understand the theory first and then you apply it. Theory in
Yeah.
itself is not going to give you what you need. And I think in engineering, we have that more practical side of things. Quite quickly, you need to go and say, okay, what can I do with this? And where it will be useful? Because that's an engineer's mindset, isn't it?
I think you know what, I really like your emphasis on principles and the way that you talk about applying what you know, because something I've had a few failures in is that where I've tried to impose a framework into various organizations, and I sort of like the framework is great if it were followed, if it were bought into, if everybody adapted into the framework, it'd be perfect. And something that I've come to realize, and I wonder what you might think about this, like being a consultant, being a freelancer, you can't kind of cookie cutter your way into stuff. Like you might have read, all the design thinking books or been on a boot camp, and have an idea about GDS or something like that. But quite often what happens is I've found is I go into a gig and it's like, oh, well, there wasn't time for this. And, Jimmy's sick and now we've just got to do it in 2 weeks. And so how can you then still apply? You can't reuse a framework at that point. So it's like you can only rely on principles and just do the best you can within the constraints you have. And I feel like that's what we have to do all the time, right? We've never had that perfect scenario where we can just use the frameworks that we read about in a kind of perfect way. Does that resonate with you?
Totally. I think it is. I think in my masters, they asked all of us for feedback. And my feedback was, I think what you teach is amazing. Keep it. The whole thing is perfect. But it needs an extra module of how to work in the real world. Because what you think is, and it should be that way. Personally, I think it should be that way. We should learn this is how it is. Yeah, science is the same. You have the principle, the frameworks. That's how it is. But then you need to be realistic that you are going to go in an imperfect environment. And particularly in design, we are in the most imperfect environment because we don't decide anything. We influence decisions. And that's they tell you, oh, you are the voice of the customer, or all of these kind of phrases. But you are not, because you cannot really make a decision. You cannot say, well, we're not doing that. Because it is not viable and it's the structures we work in. So you have to learn quite early in your career, you are an influencer of that decision.
This is I completely agree, and there's something that's blown up on LinkedIn recently, around I think I saw some comments, like, how there's a lot of stuff at the moment in the market. And, the market's just, we'll talk about the market. I mean, Matt, what is going on? This is crazy. But there's this whole thing about outcomes and how UXers, we can't do CVs that talk about, I was responsible for this and I produced this and these are we have to talk about outcomes. And I really wonder what your take on it is, because I'm to your point there. You were talking about, like, we influence things, and so if I go into a product team and I'm a UXer, like, I can influence the product owner to prioritize certain stories, and then maybe I can do a really good job on the stories that I'm told that I have to do, or we're agreed. Maybe engagement goes up, or maybe it doesn't. Like, okay, so let's say it went up. Like, was that all me that did that? Like, I was in a team, like, I maybe influenced it. So am I going to put 5x engagement on my CV? Like, achieved 5x engagement? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like this emphasis on outcomes, I get it, but I'm also feeling like I don't know really what what it actually tells someone about someone, like how true it really is, and how you can really trace back an outcome to one individual. But I wonder what you think about that, because I know that's what the market is so hungry for. But
Yeah,
is it a good thing?
it is. I believe in outcomes. I'm quite, I would say, I kind of did a course in product management, and I follow Matty Kagan and all of the big thinkers in product. And I believe in that outcomes over outputs. And I totally
Outputs,
agree with that. The problem is, I think, and this is where I'm thinking the problem with this is we are misunderstanding the outcomes that we influence. Because
okay.
we influence, we're not deciding. So for instance, I can tell you, like, I'm not going to say companies, but I was in a team and we did in a really low mature, agile and design thinking kind of company. We did a project where we showed the value. Actually, we did the discovery. We even shaped a roadmap, a new roadmap. And one of the designers was telling me with frustration, this went nowhere because there were some other issues. You know, what happens in companies? The back end is not ready. We need to do all of this work. So he cannot, it was a really good project, but he was telling me, I cannot talk about it because there is no outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
what
it's
does someone do? Yeah, yeah, I can relate. Like, I've done that. You work for ages on a project and it gets canned. It's nothing to do with you. And then your outcome was I worked on a project that didn't get delivered.
but I
It's like,
think,
what can you say?
but you can say things. I told him, you can say a lot of things. You can say how, for instance, as a designer, you came with me into research sessions and what you learn from those research sessions, how you shape your, thinking when you were designing the features, how instead of only thinking of, all of the usual best practices in UX and UI, how you also consider the, what we saw in the research and the key insights that, because it's not only about, I think Nikki Anderson had an amazing post the other day about what is the difference between findings and insights,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
how not all insights are the same. We know this, we have objectives. We work for companies. We have to balance, what is the human-centered side with the business side. And we want to make sure that our teams and our, stakeholders and product managers achieve their objectives. So you need to prioritize those insights, and all of those to me are outcomes because, for instance, I think I can say this one because they were talking openly about it. When I was at The Economist, towards the end, we were designing the new app at the time. And I did a lot of research for it. And towards the end, the product manager said to me, I cannot do the night mode. Could you, in the next sessions, explore what will be, a little bit of a sense how bad it can be or not? And I did, I just added as a one task in the session. And, economists, highbrow, highly intelligent, let's say, type of wealthy type of readers, they got emotional, but really bad emotional. And I listen to emotion, and particularly with the type of people we are dealing with. You see this type of, people getting highly emotional. I was like, oh, that is not good. Anyway, I raised it. I said, and the reasons. I told them the reasons. So basically, not having night mode meant for these people that they couldn't read at night because they will be with their partners. And
I
if it
see.
was on night mode, they were disturbing their partners. They couldn't sleep. So that meant, because I have mapped out the whole reading experience, people during the day tend to we call it context snacking. I read a little bit this, I want to read this later. And that is the time when you have deep reading, which is really important in your day. And all of a sudden you kind of have it. That was the emotional reaction, the reason behind that emotional reaction. So I explained it to them, to the product team, but they didn't have time. And actually, the funny thing is when you place it this way as a researcher, I don't need the product manager to come and tell me I cannot do this. But he was actually explaining, I understood. This, when we released the app, I was screening the reaction of the subscribers. This was the biggest, what I saw in the lab, magnified. People in capitals, someone telling us that we should be fired.
Really? Wow.
It was, and this was like, this is what I say always when people dismiss qualitative. Well, I caught it, and then we quantify it. Unfortunately, we quantify it by the anger of a lot of the people. But
Amazing.
the team value this. My team
Mm,
value, and the head of
mm.
product talked openly about this, and she value how the research code on this, and that for me is an outcome.
That's a great story. So the an insight could have the outcome to not deliver something, or to know that if we don't deliver something, this will be the impact. Like that could be the outcome, and rather than say a straight business metric, like having a business intuition and awareness is an outcome, but it's sort of it's harder to, it doesn't sound as good as 20% extra sales conversion or something. Like it might lead to that, but there's a lot of stuff that happens in business intelligence. You're like developing their intelligence as a team. Like that's got to be worth something. But it's, I feel like, yeah, I think you're right. It's about how you tell that story, I suppose. And I mean, on a CV, you've got like a bullet point or two under each role. It's kind of quite hard to convey that story. But that's a really interesting tale. I like that.
Yeah, but I think for me, what I've been thinking a lot about this, because over the past year, I'm on the job market, so I'm looking for, and I'm quite particular with NDAs. So I actually went back to some of my product teams and I asked, can you give me some metrics? And they were
Yeah,
like,
right.
no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
So
yeah,
actually, I asked. So one thing I will say for everyone in the both sides of this job market is, the ones hiring and the asking the question and the ones, in the interviews, what are we saying? Are we all reaching NDAs? Because if this were like, as I work for good companies, everyone has worked for good companies. If the companies that metrics are quite something that companies don't disclose. So one of them told me you can say this, but it's not metric.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I can
yeah. No,
say
it's
this was so the new feature. They exceeded their expectations from what they wanted to achieve. That's as much as I can go. So I will say either most people are making them up because they force. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, people can put anything on a CV. I mean, who's going to check if that last company had X engagement uplift? Like, no one's going to know that. No one's going to check that. Like, where you? So something I've wanted to talk to you about, and I've noticed that you in the last, particularly the last 6, 12 months, like you've become quite active on LinkedIn, and you've been, sort of almost like becoming a bit of a voice that is kind of, you're throwing things out there, and you're kind of commenting on the sector and the industry. And I also noticed that you partnered with Alex a little bit on this flawless CX stuff to try and create a kind of centralized hub of UX job roles. So a little bit shortcutting recruiters, maybe. I mean, maybe some of those come from recruiters, but kind of creating a centralized place. So you must be quite close to the pulse of what's going on. And I like, can you, this might be a hard question, and not, I don't know the answer to this is really welcome in this podcast. So, but what is going on? What is going on right now? Why am I seeing people on LinkedIn remortgaging their house after, who've got 20 years experience? I'm seeing posts everywhere with like people just saying I've been unemployed for 6 months and all this or longer. Like, what's your read on this? Like, what on earth is going on?
I personally think it's the economy. I think we are in the West having, I don't know,
Is it
an
AI?
I think AI has a factor, but I think the economy is the biggest factor. I think in the US, for what I understand, it was some sort of change they had on the legislation where it was something with R&D. They could kind of save money, and it affected that they put a lot of our work in through that. I don't know the specific name, but it was something about, and they recently changed that back. So hopefully in the market, they can see a little bit of a better situation because their economy is slightly better than ours. I think the
Yeah,
economy is a huge factor because obviously when companies, and we have been in this situation, this economic situation is not, something that is 1 year. We have been since the pandemic. It's getting worse and worse, and we don't see if you look at, I've been following people who understands about the economy, but they talk from, I'm a scientist, I want data, and I want that they give me the reasons behind what they say things. And it feels to me the economy is not any close to get better. So think about a company, think about investors. When they think, we know how they think because we work for them. This is one of the biggest things I will say that is creating the situation. But the AI, this is my view. This is my theory, it's a hypothesis.
Carmen's take on AI. Let's hear it.
I think I went back to, I wanted to understand. Initially, I believe, they're getting rid of us because of AI. They need less of us and of ego. We are all out. Then I started going, can they really replace us? Are these large language models able to replace us? So I went to start listening to computer scientists who are specialized on artificial intelligence. And I have a little bit of knowledge. I did a module on my master's on artificial intelligence and modeling. So slight knowledge on that. One of my lecturers is an expert on modeling, by the way, and he works professionally as well on it. So I have an element of, a bit more.
Yeah. You sound. I just read LinkedIn posts. You're far more educated than me. Tell me,
So
what
for
do you
me,
think?
what I started seeing is quite a lot of computer scientists and sharing, a scientific way of what you, a scientist, when is arguing a point, it presents a hypothesis and it presents all the sources where it's basing that hypothesis on. So this is the type of people I would listen to.
Yeah.
I agree or disagree. That's another thing. In engineering, they will tell you need to listen to both sides. You cannot go for what you think is the right side. So that's what I do. I listen to both sides. The ones that are talking about it from this is the future, this is what is coming, and we need to adapt, versus the ones who are arguing that these technologies are not what they are telling us. And my take is they're right. I don't think, and the more I'm following these technologies are not what they are telling us. And I didn't understand why they are promoting this when it's clearly it's not intelligent. They're not intelligent. They, obviously we know all the downsides. They hallucinate and, sometimes, they not always, I notice I use them. So you ask them, what is the source for this? And they don't have a source. So
Do you not think that's just today? And then if you go forward in because the curve of like how AI is going, it's not like you think of like Photoshop and you think how fast Photoshop would get a bit better every couple of years it gets a new feature. AI, that it's not that curve. It's
yeah,
so like
it was like
what we see now in and 12 months time
no, but
could
it's not.
be.
This is the thing, it's not anymore. And that's what they're
Okay.
not talking about. It's not like this anymore. It has plateau. I think it was not even last year. I don't know. It was late
Really?
2023, particularly because they ran out of content. These things need a lot of content.
To
The more
hoover up.
they
Yeah.
work with probabilities, yeah. What they do, they're not intelligent, by the way.
It's
And
just
that's
pattern
another
matching.
thing. They basically work with probability. What is the probability of if someone is saying this, that the next thing that comes, something like this. I'm not an expert, but basically, they're not intelligent. They don't have logic. That's why they lie as well, because they're not necessarily. We are thinking this is another thing, a trait in humans. We tend to humanize. It has a name, I forgot the name, but we humanize everything. Yeah, we tend to see human attributes. It's like when you look at a cloud, you see a face, and
Yeah.
so when I was in my master's in this modeling course, actually our lecturer Magnus, he took a little robot. They do this. They were participating in the football league with, they like dogs, and they play football. And the winning team is not the robot itself; it's the technology, the strategies that you that you put into the machines. And he took the robot. It was like a
I
dog, and
see. I
it
see.
didn't have any code on it. So when it has no code, it just walks around and sits down because it has no instructions. What we did, he does this every time in the course. So we all went, oh, it's so cute, like it should be a dog.
So what I'm hearing you say then, coming back to that question about what is going on, the economy you think plays a really big part in this. AI, it at the moment you see its evolution is it's a sort of it's like a butler. It's a tool. It's not a replacement. You don't think that AI has got there, and you don't seem to be overly concerned that it's going to get to that point where they're hiring an AI bot instead of Carmen.
They tried. Let's go for it. For the people claiming that it's gonna, now they have agents and they're gonna come and substitute us, yeah?
Synthetic users, all that. Yeah, yeah.
Before the agents, no matter, they got rid of content designers, yeah? They got rid of them. First casualty of this, oh, why do we need these guys? AI is gonna write for us. And then we saw the major, some companies have major, big, flaws. And so, and I can tell you, I've been posting about jobs since mid last year.
Mm.
I was like, I wish I was a content designer. All of a sudden, they're hiring them back. Yeah.
Oh, really? Is that what you're saying?
They learned the lesson. Yeah, these things, this is a tool. It's a good tool. I think it can improve in efficiency. I think it has a lot of good things for us in discovery, but it's not something that substitutes us. And it's another thing, is that whole topic I eventually found, because I follow a few people who are investors. This is all about investment. It's a situation where companies, have to get investment, and the way these days to get investment is say you have AI. And you have to justify it. And
Yeah.
many times it's like, oh, we're getting rid of all of these people because now we have AI. And then
Right.
I talk to people privately because I'm sharing jobs, and people, in jobs contact me and say, I want to leave my job because, yeah, people are stretched.
Yeah, yeah. Something I've been reflecting on, us being a little bit older in this field than perhaps people that had just arrived into it, is I remember starting in the jobs I was in back in the day, like going back 2005 and stuff. I never saw anyone get fired. I never saw anyone quit. I would be in a job for 2, 3 years, wouldn't see anyone quit. I mean, remember when we were John Lewis? Like, I don't think I saw anyone get fired the whole time we were there. Like actually, like on the spot or something like that. Never saw it. And in the last 5 to 7 years, almost every contract I've been on, I've seen someone get fired. Sometimes perm, mostly contractors, like just getting canned, like and quite abruptly as well. So it's like I've been in a perm role, and then we would come in and they'd say, okay, gather round, and they say, oh, so and so has exited the business. And it's like, exited the business? What, you mean fired? Like what? And that culture and that sort of like way of of experiencing your job. Like I really felt there was a period that I experienced where your job was safe. Like no one's going to fire you. There's going to be loads of alarm bells before that happens. Whereas now I feel like being a permie or being a freelancer doesn't really make any difference. Like there isn't job security, and kind of like it like the market is so frothy, and there's something has changed. There's a bit more of a sort of brutal edge to it. Is my feeling. Do you resonate with that?
I think there were I did experience, I saw redundancies throughout my career. It's not
Did you?
something that,
Well, at Yahoo, you saw it right at the start, didn't
yeah,
you?
just the start. It was my team and it was made redundant. But I feel that the level of, the frequency that is happening, and the huge amounts of people, and you only have to go and look at people publish the data. It is now ridiculous the amount of people that are getting made redundant or let go in for whatever reason, because now it looks bad. Yeah, it looks bad, you let go, but it might be nothing to do with you, or maybe it has to do with you try to do your job. in an environment that actually doesn't, now
Doesn't want you to do your
about
job.
what they want you to do, and they don't understand that you are doing your job, and I think it's a little bit of the companies are not understanding what they are doing. They are really short term. They think of what do we need now, not thinking of neither the systems thinking behind all of this,
I've been thinking about that with.
environment of,
I've
and
been.
particularly for us that we work in the creative industry where we need to be, creative and innovative. When you do all of these things, what you bring into the people that work for you is fear. Fear reduces collaboration. It puts people into saving mode. I have to protect myself. So you're not collaborating, you're working for you. To justify that you have done the things right. And it's a normal
Survivalist.
human thing. It's
Yeah,
not
yes.
a bad thing, it's a human thing. The most nice people that you can find that would do that. So you don't have collaboration anymore. You have people that are fearful, you have people stressed in fight or flight mode. That is not conducive of creativity.
It's quite a spiral, isn't it? It's like the market contracts. There's less jobs. People in the jobs are feeling scared that they might get fired. Someone has behaviors where they're saying, "Hey, let's collaborate. I've got an idea. Have you got 10 minutes to look at?" No, I haven't got any time. I don't want to get fired. Like I'm going to just kind of stay in my box, and I can see how it could kind of encourage certain behaviors of, yeah, like shutting down, being more siloed. I see what happens when senior managers get stressed. They go into a directive mode, and so they don't like let teams be empowered. They start kind of saying, no, do this, do this, do this, do exactly like I say, and then the team become a kind of, okay, I'll just deliver what you tell me to do. I won't use my brain, and then innovation gets stifled, and it's just kind of like this sort of race to the bottom at that point. It's quite depressing, isn't it?
It is. I think it is. It's just, and as well, not understanding how to use your design and product teams, because we are actually the ones that can get you out. I keep talking about this. I post a little bit in LinkedIn. Companies think, oh, let's do VAU really well. Let's focus on that. Let's get rid of all. There's no innovation because they don't understand what innovation is. They think innovation is the latest. They will say, oh, AI. AI is our innovation
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and then we see AI goes nowhere because, people don't use something because AI. Actually, Jared Spool recently posted, I don't remember who it was, but they're actually advertising. If you talk to our people, you will talk to our people, it won't be an AI. So actually,
yeah, yeah.
a competitive advantage is that you're talking to humans. So because the technology, and this is the misconception of innovation is not the technology. Innovation is what you do, what it is that the customers are achieving with whatever it is you're providing. We know this. This is the exact levels need to understand this is not innovation. So and the second one is VAU. In a world, let's say pre-pandemic, where people were, have money, have jobs. We were in first world type of, you could sell subscriptions and all sorts of products that today won't work because now move 5 years here, people are losing their jobs. The ones that are not losing the jobs, they're scared of losing their jobs. So VAU won't work. I predict this. I will say to any company, if you only focus on VAU, good luck to you, because VAU last year is not this year. 2 years ago is definitely not this year. Your customers, their jobs to be done have changed, because before the jobs to be done in the hierarchy of Maslow were quite high up. But
See,
today they go in psychology. How is it psychology, protection, and physical protection? We are in basics now. How can I save money? Because I have, we have a cost of living crisis. And innovation can be fantastic in this environment. We are made for these times. I've been saying this. And companies should be using us as where are the opportunities in this environment? How we can satisfy, actually the jobs have changed. Which jobs can we actually satisfy and make money? and actually help. It's a double thing because we are helping people and we are making money out of it.
There's something, yeah, that you touched on there that really resonated for me about, like, you're talking about, how society is changing, and how people have got new and emerging challenges, and how companies can't be very BAU. They can't be sort of too like just working the old ways, and they have to kind of innovate. And something that doesn't feel right about AI is in that conversation is like it's solution first, problem second. And I just find that just never works, like I just think you've got to start with the problem, and it's such an old adage in our sector. What problem are you trying to solve? But there's something about AI which says, hey, we've got this cool thing, let's try and find a bunch of problems that we can solve. And I find it really hard to do that, and I've been guilty of it myself, where I've been getting into vibe coding recently, and I'm like, oh, what can I build? What can I build? And then it's like I'm thinking of it solution. I have AI. What problems will work with it? And it's so hard to do that. And I think you have to start with, okay, understanding people, problems, and then maybe it's AI, maybe it's not, maybe it's something else. But I
Maybe,
imagine that might be a pitfall that people fall into.
maybe it's a mix. There are some things where AI can be quite useful, and there are some things I don't know. I'm gonna again. This is my thinking. I have no anything behind. It's all alleged and call it conspiracy theory or whatever. But we have seen things that we have never seen before, like companies, big failures recently, huge things happening. And we have worked in this for a long time. Have you seen an e-commerce going down? And going down is not like one day or 2 days, no, months. Or like that big thing with what was the cybersecurity one that took down every Windows
Oh,
machine.
Marks and Spencers went down and stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, Marks and Spencers were down. I mean, it's not even. I recently was buying something and you cannot click and collect yet. I don't know. It was last month. I don't know if they already reestablished that, but I'm thinking, was it some AI thing there? Because we know that technology is being played with and it's dangerous. Playing with something with this hype. This is what I've been calling it. It's not I'm against these tools, it's that I'm against the hype. And the hype is extreme at the moment. It's like they are saying things and they are being
Peak hype.
proven. They've been
Yeah,
proven it's lies. I'm
yeah.
it's been published. I can say
There's
this.
something there's something off about it, isn't there? Like, I mean, I saw it a little bit with crypto, and there's like these kind of waves that come in where there's like a new thing, and then suddenly like everyone's, you know, does that thing, and then now that's old, and the new thing comes in, and there's something familiar about this cycle that we've seen before. I wanted to ask you and just move us into a slightly different territory, because I something I really want to talk about. Outside of the wider sector, it is more like on the individual level. And we were having a conversation before we started about imposter syndrome, and especially like given the market being so challenging. I my feeling, like, it's a conversation that needs to continually happen, especially if from people like who might be like us, who have been around the block a little bit, just because I kind of just can't imagine what junior people might be feeling and thinking, who are like in these first time jobs or trying to get a job right now, and the role that imposter syndrome might be playing. And I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be out there. I mean, I know I've personally felt imposter syndrome probably on every job I've ever had. Um, I've sort of felt kind of anxious that someone will say, like, "What are you doing? Like, who let you in? Like, can we just get your CV? Can we get your CV up a minute? Like, what? Like, I just worry that's going to happen, and it never has. But I kind of have that anxiety. Is that something that you could relate with?
Well, yes, I actually have a different take of imposter syndrome. I think it is. It's not a bad thing. Something that is a part of us that will always be there. And
Mm.
I kind of talk to anyone who has someone you admire, someone, I don't know, who does talks, like Simon Sinek and, this type of people. If you talk to them, they will tell you they had imposter
Yeah,
syndrome.
but yeah,
They will tell you that before any big talk, they have their techniques, but they still get nervous. And, anyone, it's like, I don't know, I think we think that I think we live in the world of the these influencers. Everything is beautiful, the social media, everything is perfect. Right? Life is not like that. We are humans and we have both sides. We have really great performances, but behind any great performance is a lot of things that go with it. And imposter syndrome is part of you. It's something that is telling you, hey, you don't know everything. I actually always thank my imposter syndrome. Thank you for
mm.
reminding me. Maybe
You
I've
thank
been
it.
doing, a little bit, big-headed. Maybe it's because now I know a lot of things, yeah, but you don't know everything. And it reminds me that it keeps me humble, it brings me, but it's how you deal with imposter syndrome. For me, this is the key. The key is not saying, oh, I have imposter syndrome and I have to do something to get rid of it. No, it's going to be, first, let's be honest, it's always going to be there.
Yeah, yeah,
It's part
yeah,
of
yeah.
you.
That,
It's a
you
part
know,
of
that's a really good point. Because I, I had it early on in my career, and then it's like, well, if I've still got it now, like, and I remember saying to myself once, like, I was like, what would have to happen for me to feel that I like I don't have it. The one thing I did wonder was if I was in the same job with the same people, and we delivered the same product and we did the same work, for 10 years, then maybe I wouldn't have it, because I'd be like, well, I've done every scenario, every situation has happened. But that's just not how I work. I change jobs all the time. I change, projects, sectors. And there is an element when you do that, especially as a freelancer, like, and I know the market doesn't like generalists anymore, and they like people that have the same job back to back. But as a generalist, like, you go in and yeah, you don't quite know everything. And I feel like that's sometimes like a hard place to navigate of like sort of saying, oh, I don't know that yet, or can I come back to you and think about that? Like sometimes that it's simple to say but it's hard to do somehow. Do you know what does that am I making any sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And I think, I can see the projects that you've been doing, and I've been doing. We are good at discovery, aren't we? And we have been for a long time. Why? Because we had a mindset. Because for me, the moment that starts getting established, it's just boring. It's like, okay, now everything
Yeah,
is known. Now, next, let's go.
yeah, yeah.
We thrive on that. Not everyone has it. So, and I think it is another thing I don't know why companies don't, product teams need to read a little bit more. But Simon Watley, the one of the, he's known for the Watley maps, but he's got this framework of the pioneers, the town planners, the settlers, and the town planners. And these are personas working in innovation. And what he called the pioneers is us. It's the people who arrive and see opportunities and don't get scared with when things are unknown. Actually, they get excited about it. Oh, there is something to
Yes.
discover here. And you thrive in that environment. You're a pioneer mindset. And then you don't need you need that, but then you need to go into I think it's the settlers mindset. I might be saying it the other way around, but I think it's the settlers the next one. So once you have discovered all of these things, you need to go, okay, let's not
Yeah,
go.
no, that makes sense. Yeah, a pioneer is someone who's going out there discovering, and a settler is someone
You
who's
see
settling in.
opportunities, but some of those opportunities won't work. Some of those opportunities might have risks that companies don't want to take. So then you need to bring, and you can be, I am both pioneer and settler mindset. because that's where I have been, that's where I enjoy. Then you go, okay, how do we frame this within the remit of this company, these objectives, this customer base? Off you go. And then at the end, we give it to the town planners, who are the ones
I know,
what
yeah.
companies think about product teams delivery.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
I,
need, if you go into a dual track model, you need the pioneer and the settler kind of mindset in your discovery track.
aren't you describing the diamond here? Because isn't the pioneer diverging and the settler is converging, and maybe there's a town planner and then maybe there's a builder, and it's something that I talked about on a previous conversation I had with someone. Is like I love divergent space. I really like that. I've never really been into convergency. So convergency for me is like buttons, arrows, design systems. It's that sort of stuff. And and divergency tends to be more like, interviewing, prototyping. Sort of really going out there, ask ideation. Being in that space where we don't know the answers, and I that's the space I feel comfortable in. But I also like I feel like this whole thing of like product designer that's so it's so like the hot ticket right now. But I look at a product designer and I see that as a converging role. I don't see that as a diverse, unless I've misunderstood it. It looks to me like what they want is like high Figma skills. They say, they want all the things like user research and all that, but really what the thing is that they'll evaluate you on is your Figma skills, is with what I see. So what I'm seeing in another lens of that is they want someone to come in and converge to deliver someone's vision, not and maybe to do a little bit of exploration within an execution, but keep converging. So people that like the divergency space are less needed or wanted at the moment, and they're wanting people that can realize founders' visions. I think that's what I'm seeing. Does that make any sense? It's theory. I don't know if it's true.
I know, I have the same theory. I think is and I have seen it in a few jobs, a few contracts. So it is not anymore. They say the problem is what is said and what is done is different. It's what I think that we researchers know, because it's one of the things we spot in research when participants say the one thing, but they doing the behavior doesn't match. So yeah, I think it's quite clear. I don't know. I think there is a product design role that exists. But even if you look, there are product designers complaining about what you are saying. What is the most, what people think of product design is not reflecting who they are, because exactly of this, because it's all town planning. It's the last mindset, because that's the thing at the moment companies want. They don't want thinkers. They don't want design thinking. That's what is the reality. They think it's a waste of time. And to be fair to companies, I think there was a time when the hype of design thinking, like the same with Agile, the same with Lean. And I've been saying this for a long time. It's not the frameworks the problem, it's the bad practice of those frameworks that has made companies not believe, because they
Ah, I
haven't
see.
believed.
Yeah, it was done. It was
Yeah.
done badly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I compare it to cooking. Everyone can follow a recipe. Everyone. But not everyone is a master chef.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So you can go and follow the design thinking model and do it really badly and have a really, really bad outcome. Same with, even worse with jobs to be done. It's one of the hardest techniques I have ever learned. I have to train really heavily for applying it. So I have heard of people going really wrong with it. So it's all about understanding the frameworks and applying them. And we had what Marty Kagan is calling the theater of product, which comes from Steve Blank, who is the dad of all the lean kind of thinking. And he called it the theater of innovation. This is what we have, the theater of innovation, of product, of design. Is when you do something without systems. We need some element of theater because we need to kind of sell what we do. But when it's all theater with nothing behind it, or even worse, when it's just for the show and the
I
value
know
of
that.
that. That's,
The
it is
dot I
controversial, but it has to be
the
said.
the dot that connected for me just then is we were talking about you were talking earlier about innovation and how it's been stifled at the moment and how there's these behaviors that are not encouraging people to collaborate and people to kind of be a bit more siloed. And I was thinking about this, the rise of the product designer, and this is just theory, but it's like, you know, if the economy is retracting, then if the economy was a person, the economy is going to revert to convergent behaviors. It's not going to go wide and ask lots of questions. It's going to kind of go, I'm scared. I'm going smaller. I'm going to just like narrow in on things that I've done before and narrow in like that. And I think of like a role that is mainly about executing vision is a convergency thing. And so I wonder if the market right now is like allergic to divergency, which is why you see less user research roles and more pulled into convergency, which is why you see a big drive for people with Figma skills. I don't know if that could be, I could be completely wrong here, but it was
No,
just a dot that connected in our conversation.
no, I think, and let me just tell you one thing. I think as well our sector has changed significantly, and design has changed significantly. I lived through the 2008, 2009. I was a midweight when back then, and I actually did my best work. All
Right.
of a sudden, stakeholders were open because they were desperate in a sense of we need results. And all of a sudden, we were able to do things that we couldn't do back maybe when previous to the crisis. So I think, and if you prove your value, that's another one. If you do it and you show them that you can do it and you get actual outcomes, no,
Yeah.
what I call vanity metrics, which is another kind of term. If you actually get outcomes, then they let you do even more because this is the time where we can make a difference. The problem, what we call product design, is just really narrow to the town planners. There's no design thinking, there's no UX, there's no service design at all. And that's the problem. So what they're going to deliver is not probably, as I said, it's a bit like the inmates are running the asylum. Someone was posting about this. People should start reading this again. It's so relevant today because we lost
Brilliant.
the actual design thinking and where we can add value. Our value is not on the final, output and shaping it and making it. It has. I'm not going to diminish the value of a really good, sound, usable, beautiful product, but if that product is not addressing key jobs to be done, and I like jobs to be done because these are for me, what I frame it to stakeholders is how your customers make a decision between getting your product or getting someone else's product, and not always is your competitor. So
Carmen, I mean, just the insights and the knowledge that flows out of you. I mean, I feel like we could just talk all day. It's just so it's so interesting to hear your take on it. And I'm kind of conscious that I'm trying to keep these conversations round about an hour. But it feels like blunt to kind of, end it too soon. But I wanted to draw it to some kind of close. But I'm really appreciating and listening to what you're saying. And it's like, oh yeah, I think I need to reflect and go for a walk. um, I wonder if we could close on, I guess because this is the podcast is about, it's about design, and it's the human aspect of it. And I wonder if you could share maybe what would you think you're most proud of that you've done in your experience? What what do you think? What's the most proudest design? I mean, design can be research, can be design. What are you most proud of in your work?
I think my case studies reflect the projects as a researcher, particularly because that's for me my
Yeah.
my key skill, I will say. And in the case studies I have, all projects were research informed decision. And that is when I feel proud. I feel proud that my research was able to kind of shape the direction of a product, shape sometimes a roadmap of a product.
You can see your influence in the end outcome of the design. You're like, I know why that page is there, or that button is there, or it says that, or the flow works like this because I changed it. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's even like the experience. It goes beyond not only that interface, but we are providing a much better experience, and the teams understand the reasons behind of, how why the product is working. So for me, it's not even me influencing. I always feel I did my job if I brought the right, those insights, and I work well with the team to make it, to inform what they are doing and to raise the risk early. Sometimes it's not only about the new opportunities. So there is a few products that wouldn't exist today if I didn't do the research. Or another researcher, it's not only me, in this case it was me, but a good researcher will get you those really good opportunities that end up into a product. Also, something I've been saying as well, we need to start talking about, and particular researchers, because our value has been diminished massively at the moment. So all of the risks we helped to avert, but also the products that didn't make it and were, a total disaster, which is not only money, it's reputational damage for big companies, that we actually stopped because we provided the right, insights to help teams understand this has no value. And when, not only that, I always say, it's not telling them this has no value, but we have learned, where you can go, where is that value. And I think for me, this is when I light up. When I present these projects, I get quite excited about it, because this is where, for me, I'm proud. I'm proud that I am helping these teams, to actually, to find value for the company and for the customers.
Amazing. I think that's a great note to end on, and thank you, Carmen. It's been so great to talk to you, and I feel like I've learned quite a lot, and I need to go back and listen to it and make some notes. So yeah, thank you so much. And if we should have another conversation. There's so much more to talk about. So thank you. Yeah, thanks for trusting me, and I think we're good. So we'll end it there.